Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Play to the Whistle, brought to you by Grassroot Chats. In the studio with me is Mr. Hinder, Big Steve, and of course, Big Dunk. We are talking about today the rise of North London as Tottenham and Arsenal seem to have started the season really well. We're also looking at the newly promoted clubs, especially Fulham, starting the Premier League return, and Mitrovic looking like he's on fire. We shall discuss all the other Premier League games and all the topics that we think are necessary for this weekend. But before we start, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you hear, what you see, please follow us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on social media at Grassroot Chats on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and join the Grassroot Chats family. The Premier League still starts celebrating 30 years, but I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that the North London boys are looking good. I mean, both sides of North London are looking like they're having success. The season has just started, just 3 games in. Big Dunk has always been a fan of Arteta, always said he has done good things. The other Arsenal boys have been, yeah, he's all right, sometimes he's not. Big Dunk, Arsenal, are they winning the league this season?
No. We're not going to go from, what is it, 5th place to winning the league. No.
Why? It happens. It could happen.
Let's get a check of ourselves. And I don't think, they were like, you read the comments online, I don't think if we ask Steve, I don't think any Arsenal fans are going to be claiming to win the league this year. But, they're looking good, really strong start. The last predictions we did, I think I backed them for 3rd place. Champions League, I can see that definitely happening this year, particularly with some of their other contenders like Chelsea and Spurs, even Liverpool slipping up already, Man City getting a draw today. I mean, that's not going to affect the title race in the end. But, Arsenal are looking good after 3 games, so we won't get carried away. But they've been putting in good performances. I think that'll be the encouraging thing. Just like when we talk about Leeds later, we'll talk about that. But for Arsenal fans, I think the encouraging thing is the way they're playing, the chances they're creating, they're finishing them, they're getting more than 1 goal in most of their games, looking really good, looking really dangerous, and looking like they can compete with anyone. So, of course, the acid test is going to be when they do play one of their top 4 competitors.
Well, one of the struggles that Arsenal had last season is that when they played teams that people expected them to just blow away, they struggled. But so far, this season, once again, we know it's only 3 games, but we're dominant against Bournemouth, wiped them off the floor, look really good. Jesus didn't score, but assisted. Odegaard is coming into the captain that Arteta has believed him to be. Big Steve, is this a case of the change of mentality in terms of, they've built the mentality to the point that they believe that, okay, we can go out and do this? And of course, Arteta getting the key players. We were talking about this last episode. Arteta has gotten the key players. So Arsenal now has a team, a first 11 that can be relied on. Is that what the case is?
I think it's a case of a combination of things. So you got the signings. He's got more of an imprint on the team and the squad of the players that he wants throughout. They've started well. Fortunate fixtures allows them to build confidence. So getting the likes of Bournemouth, Leicester, and if you look at it, I think their first real tough game is probably Spurs on the 1st of October or something like that. So they've got a nice...
Don't pretend like you don't know the date.
So they've got a nice run of fixtures, which allows them to build confidence and take it into the season. So I think it's just a combination of things. They're doing well. Momentum is growing. They're positive, and there's a lot of pluses. Whereas last season, it was a lot of negatives at the beginning of the season, and it all seemed a bit rushed. But now it's all settled, positive, and they're in control, not being controlled.
Oh, nice. I like that. That's like the title of a book. The next season of All or Nothing, being in control, not being controlled. I like it. Mr. Hinder, you still believe Arsenal needed to buy 1 or 2 players, but as I said, they look like they have a good first 11. They might not have, the big depth of players, but do you still think they need to add 1 or 2 players, or is this the team to go for the season?
Well, I'm a little bit confused about this book that you're releasing, the S&M book.
No,
being in control or being controlled.
No,
I'm not really sure what's going on. If it's
Steve.
autobiographical, I don't want to know. If it's fiction, I'll have a good read. But if it's got to, we need to leave that one at the door. With regards to Arsenal, they've had a good start. I said last week that Zinchenko and Jesus were master strokes because they just fit in, which was fantastic. Odegaard captain, you said. I mean, I'm not really sure whether he's captain material, but when it's going well, anyone can captain, right? So let's find out after a couple of games, 1st of October, when it starts to get a little bit harder when they play Spurs.
Why don't you think he's captain material?
Why don't I think he's captain material? He's quite young. It doesn't look like he's bossing the pitch. It doesn't look like he's getting people involved and where they should be. I'm old. So captains, when I was a kid, used to be captains. They used to be really in control. They were demanding. They would G up players and they would get things sorted. Now it's kind of whoever's friends with the boss, tickles his nads, etc. seems to be the captain. They're not proper captains in any essence of being captains.
People lead, but in different ways. Some people lead in the way that you're talking.
He made a good captain's decision, nicking that shot off Jesus. Anyway.
Yeah, I think he had to on that one. You look at the it's a good squad now. There's they've got a bit of depth in there in certain areas. Saliba's goal was an absolute quality goal for a centre back or anyone really. You had Ben White playing right back, which was quite different and nice to see, rather than
third
having
time
a
in a
back
row.
three.
Third time in a row.
No, I think they played a back three at one particular point, and had Saka playing left wing back, and then you had I can't remember who's playing right wing back. I think you might have had Niles, but anyway, so you'd had you lost my train of thought. So Ben White playing right back is quite nice because he's actually got a good cross and he's a good passer with the ball. He's very composed, which I think is quite good to see. Jesus looks decent. Nketiah came on and was just Nketiah awful. He is not getting the game time that 100 grand warrants, if that makes sense. Martinelli's now stepped up. 100% still time. Martinelli's now stepped up to another level, which looks like he's got maybe an end product, whether that's a pass or a cross. Maybe there's more faith in people in the box. I think maybe that's a good thing to see because you've got Saka doing similar, and then you've also got Ben White crossing the ball as well. So you've got a monumental change there. They still need to buy 2 new midfielders, centre of the park midfielders, and a captain, right? I don't care who. They need a captain in that centre of the park to keep that ship sturdy. And there, Odegaard seems very friendly and nice. I'd like to see them looking for a couple of engine men in that centre of that park. Xhaka still looks he always looks tired. Whether it's the first minute of the game or the 90 minute, he looks tired for the whole game.
That's just how his face is.
No, I think it's the way he runs. He's really laboured, but he's still hanging in. He's still got it, and I think that's the bit they need to get to the next level. And then when Jesus is out, you've got Nketiah coming in. He looked poor when he came on. I don't know if he looked like he'd been in the gym a lot and looked a bit either bulky or I don't know if he was muscly or overweight. It's hard to see when they're wearing their shirts. He looked like a different frame of what he was last season. So that'll be an interesting dynamic to see where he's actually going to come in and fit in. Because if we go to the game, and what I found really hard, so you've got 5 subs now to make, yeah? Everyone knows that. And the hardest thing I found at 65 minutes, that game was over by 35 minutes, right? Bournemouth, poorest team as half you're ever going to get from a team in the Premier League, right? They were really, really poor. But by 60, 65 minutes, that's when Arteta should be looking to bring in the faces to give them some game time. I think he brought players on with 3 minutes to go. You're not wasting time when you're 3-0 up at 87 minutes. That's pointless. Like, that exercise is when it's 1-1 or you're clinging on or you need another goal and you're bringing on 3 strikers. The whole process for me was really, really bizarre. And I'm sitting there going, right, Nketiah should now come on. Rest Jesus, he's done his shift. Bring on Nketiah, bring on Smith Rowe, take Odegaard off because he'd had a really good game, right? So give these players some time. And then he brings them on so late. They've got no time to make an impact. They're not fitting in. So it's really, really hard. That was the perfect game to bring people. If he'd brought a 15-year-old or 16-year-old on at 87 minutes, never an issue, right? I think that's a good bit of experience for them. But these are seasoned pros now that he's bringing on for what? So go and have a shower afterwards. I didn't get it. It made no sense at 3-0 up.
Well, he probably has a plan. There's plenty of game time left. The season is just starting. So maybe he will bring in these players earlier or other games when they dominate. Speaking about Xhaka, Dunk. He seems to have a new role where he's running in more through the middle. It seems I don't know I don't know what you call it. You call it like a. He's been encouraged to go into the box more. That's one. So he looks like it's a new kind of change that Arteta has done for the team, allowing Xhaka go forwards, probably score more goals. That's one. Do you agree with Mr. Hinder in terms of Odegaard not captain material, or somebody else should be captain? And the third thing that I'll ask you is Saka, in terms of maturity, is that going against him in terms of he seems like he's a player that he just does what the boss tells him to do. So you're not going to see like leg overs and that over skillful thing by him. But do you think that's going to go against him? So let's take you back to number one. Xhaka.
So
New role?
Yeah, number one. Yeah, he's more box to box. That's the word you're looking for, JJ. Box to box. So
I was with Xhaka. I wasn't thinking box to box.
No,
but yeah,
you said he's getting more in the box, but you weren't thinking box to box.
Nah.
Box to somewhere.
Something
that would involve him running.
Well, Arteta's obviously like impressed on him that he wants him, to do a bit more running, cover more ground on the field, maybe it's like a tactical thing depending on who they're playing. We haven't seen them play like real strong opposition, so maybe if they're going to play someone of the Spurs or Chelsea's, then he's going to ask him to stay back a bit more. So
looking at the games though, so a game against Crystal Palace, which is possibly being the most difficult game Arsenal has played so far this season, he still made those runs.
Yeah, but Crystal Palace is still they're still no like Man City or Liverpool. So again, like we've got to wait for those games to see what happens. And just talking about the Palace game, like we've seen that with a couple of other teams now. Like some results from the first couple of weeks are looking good now that other teams are like kicking on and starting to perform, like Crystal Palace. And like I was disappointed with Leeds, that 2-2 against Southampton last week, and then they go and beat Leicester away. So it's looking like we're going to have some good competitive games anyway. The top remains to be seen, but definitely in the middle of the table, it looks like we're going to get some good competition this year. Second, what was your second question? We got Saka was the third one.
Saka was the third one.
Odegaard.
One was Odegaard.
I don't know if Neil's sat down and chatted with Odegaard. I think he's might be being a bit harsh to be making these judgments on the man.
He's not answering the call, so I'm phoning him and he's not. Maybe that's him stamping his authority on it. I don't know.
So if I've got there's Arteta and his judgment, and there's Neil Hinder and his judgment, I'm going to go with Arteta and say that the man knows what he's doing and that he sees some leadership material in Odegaard, and he banged in 2 goals yesterday, so it's not looking like a bad shout on that front. I think he'll be fine as captain material. Again, like you have to leave that kind of judgment to the manager. Like I don't know, I'm trying to think other than we'll bring up Harry Maguire. Like anyone who's like
look,
not done.
I mean, you just said
listen.
So the whole point of a podcast is we have an opinion. Now you're telling us we'll leave it up to the managers. Right, we're just going to go home now and be like, it was a great week for Premier League football.
Although
here's the manager's opinions.
I could have used Xhaka as an example of a misjudged captain, like because that didn't work out too well as well.
Man United why would even play? Leave us alone.
No.
Anyway,
not leaving you alone. So that's the Odegaard one. Yeah. So I'll trust Arteta's judgment on that. Saka, was it Pep was commenting on an interview in the last couple of days saying he doesn't care about skills. Like I don't think that's an important part of anyone's game. Saka is going to be playing his part for the team this season. Like if there's an opportunity to do skills, maybe he'll slip a few in there, but I don't think he's been quite as flamboyant as some of the other players in the league. So I think like he'll look at what's going on this season, the great start they've had, and I think he's just going to get his head down and do his job for the team, whatever he's asked to by Arteta. So if he's asked to in a game do a bit more defensive work, he'll do it. If he's asked to get up there and attack, he'll do it. So I think he's just he'll do what he's told, not in that kind of sense of the word, but he has the understanding, like Arsenal, of going to possibly have a really good season this year, and he'll just get on and do his job in the team.
Okay, that's that. Big Steve, in terms of Odegaard, captain fantastic, and is playing in the middle, and the issue with having such a good 11 now is that certain players obviously will be left out. The key player I'm talking about here is ESR. Are you okay? Are you happy with the first 11 that you have now? Would you swap him in for anybody else? I mean, before the argument used to be ESR possibly playing where Odegaard plays or where Martinelli plays, utility player. Do you think there's anything missing with the first team? Are you happy with the first team as it is, or do you think is there anybody you'll swap?
From within the squad?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm happy with the first team as they are. Probably have Tomiyasu coming at right back for Ben White because it's not Ben White's natural position. He can play. He's doing a good job, but I think it's it's a case of Arteta deciding what his centre back pairing is. Is it Saliba and Gabriel or Ben White and Gabriel? But to me, Ben White goes back into the pool of central defenders once Tomiyasu comes back. ESR has to bide his time. He doesn't start before Odegaard. I've never been convinced that he was someone to start before Odegaard. Odegaard's got more experience, a better player. He doesn't carry the ball as well as ESR does, but he's better at linking up the whole team. At the moment, I wouldn't put ESR ahead of Martinelli because Martinelli's more dynamic, and he gives the team something extra. So unfortunately for ESR, he's just going to have to bide his time until he gets an opportunity.
Well, Mr. Hinder called on. Let's see how long Saliba's good form continues. The man scored a goal, a very good goal this week. Arsenal is looking all good. Mr. Hinder has pointed out they possibly need one or two midfielders, and Arteta's not trying new players when you're actually commanding game 3-0. So with the first 11 and the way it looks now for Arsenal, they're looking good. Just 3 games, but they're looking sweet. Mr. Hinder, do you still think Saka has no end product, even if he's playing well and doing exactly as the manager has instructed him to do?
Yeah, I mean, he's doing what the manager tells him to do. He's not. Still don't think he's got an end product. He hasn't shown it this season that he's got a fantastic cross or a shot that's helping out. Fortunately, they've got Jesus, which is going to be the difference maker in that team. He's driven. He's got experience. He's still quite young. He's hungry. He's got a point to prove. He's a winner. I think that was needed in that dressing room. Saka needs to step up. He had a really good start, and I'm not to diminish how well he started. He started his career really, really, really good. The problem is maybe there needs to be continuing an upward trajectory. There needs to be more assists and more goals season after season. He can't just have one good season and then there needs to be 10 and 10. If he's going to be playing that many games, and his stats don't back that up, unfortunately. It will be interesting to see if Nketiah gets some game time and plays really well, and then makes a dilemma for Arteta. A couple of games coming on, scoring a couple of goals, maybe playing one in the League Cup or Europe, and then making a stake for the game. And then suddenly they've got Nketiah, Jesus issue, and Martinelli. Who do they play? And you've also got Saka. So out of those at the moment, the front three are picking themselves purely because the games are winning, but they're not getting anyone else to come in and take that anyone else's role. I agree with Steve about ESR. It's a sad state of affairs for him, though, I think, which is going to be the problem. He's 22, so he's not a baby anymore. Even he's still way younger than me, but he's not a baby with regards to 18, 19. He should be staking a claim for first team football wherever he is at that particular age. And if he's not getting the first team football, then either he isn't going to be quite good enough and he needs to move on elsewhere, which I know we're only 3 games into the season is a little bit early. But if he doesn't get the game time that he needs at Arsenal, he needs to go elsewhere and get that game time. Otherwise, he will stagnate. And that's kind of my issue with the fact of only giving him 5 minutes or 10 minutes game time. It's really not helpful to ESR's character. I've been watching the Prime documentary, and then he's quite a shy guy, right? So again, this is going to be detrimental to his well-being, and I'm sure Arteta is looking after him as much as possible. But this isn't going to give him confidence unless they're saving a whole new team just to play the European games. So it's a really nice position for Arsenal to be in, I suppose, where they don't need him, and they've got Odegaard who's doing a fantastic job. But would you I'm not sure you would have them in the same role potentially anyway, because he seems to play more out wide left, if that makes sense. But you're not dropping Martinelli with the form that he's currently on. And that guy has found form this season. Like, he's already better this season than the whole of last season. Like, statistically and everything else, he's just better already, which is a godsend, I think, because he's had so much potential, but with nothing else in there. Come on, Steve.
I think where people like ESR will get their game time is when the World Cup comes up, because Martinelli, Jesus will be off to the World Cup, and maybe ESR and Nketiah don't go.
Maybe
when,
they ain't going nowhere, man. There's no maybe.
So when the games come thick and fast around that time, they will probably have to lean on them then, and hopefully they can step up and fill the gaps and still keep the level performance up.
Just the last thing on Arsenal, and I'm just going to throw it out there. Probably, yeah. Let me ask Dunk. Dunk has a way of seeing stuff, different perspective. So there is, as far as I'm concerned, there's no competition for Saka and the way he plays. And the closest competition would have been Pepe. Now the rumor is that he's going to Nice on loan, or at least I don't know if they'll buy him before the 1st of September.
You read that wrong. He's going to live with his niece.
Okay.
No one wants him.
Wherever he's good. And then why is it that Arteta pretty much has given some players a chance to, show themselves, redeem themselves? Why is it that it seems that Pepe is not one of them?
Pepe, I think Pepe's had his time. He's had his plenty of chances under Arteta. So you've got to say there's some kind of work ethic issue. I mean, it can't be that bad because he's hung around, but we don't know if they've tried to ship him out sooner than this. But yeah, it just looks like under Arteta, like Pepe hasn't done the business, hasn't taken his chances when he's been in the first team. Maybe he's one of those players who, when he's not in the first team, has his head down, the head drops in training, and he doesn't put as much effort in. So again, that's just another one I'm going to leave to Arteta's judgment and just say I think he's had his chances under Arteta and he's not taken them, and he's someone that they're looking to move on.
I love it when Big Dunk likes a manager. There's a way he just talks about the manager, and then you definitely know when he doesn't like a manager. Lampard, you know that he's ready to say everything bad about this guy. Well, it's looking good. It's looking good for Arsenal.
Can I just mention one thing about that Arsenal and Pepe? They were signing over Pepe or Zaha, and they went with Pepe. I just want Arsenal fans to know that, and everyone else listening, that they signed Pepe over Zaha at that particular point.
At the time they signed him,
Crystal Palace wanted 80 million up front.
80 million.
Arsenal weren't going to pay 80 million for.
And you paid
how much did they pay for Pepe?
No, we paid Pepe, but it was a structured deal, so it felt the financial signing was better from a financial perspective.
What was it? Has it been better?
No, you didn't have to pay the 80 million. You didn't have to pay all up front.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But I mean, that was 80 million on a player that would have worked, or 75 million over 15 years for Pepe that hasn't worked. It's still money, right?
I hear what you're saying, but that's the reasons that they went with Pepe. But Pepe's problem is the fact that
it's crap.
Saka's ahead of him, right? And Arsenal have become dependent upon Saka. So if you take him out, you've never had a situation where you could take him out and play Pepe for any length of games because Arsenal relied too much on Saka.
Yeah, but Saka wasn't playing when Pepe came in.
He was
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
No, not 3 years ago. He was 16.
No,
Emery signed Pepe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, but when Pepe was signed, Saka wasn't first teamer.
No. So Pepe came in. He didn't deliver
anything
according to the huge price tag and what was expected of him. Saka managed to establish himself on that right flank, and Pepe has never done anything to take it away from him. And then because Arsenal's very reliant on Saka, he was never going to displace him, and there's nowhere else for Pepe to play. They've tried him on the left a couple of times, but then you can use ESR and Martinelli there. So yeah, it's just a bad thing all around.
Didn't Saka come in as playing left back though?
Yeah,
and work his way up on the left hand side. Yeah,
when Lundberg was caretaker manager.
Okay, can we move on now, Mr. Hinder?
No, Pepe's crap.
Okay. Now you've said that. Can we move on now?
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Moving on to the white side of North London. So the good thing about Tottenham this season is that they seem so the game against Chelsea usually last season or seasons before those are games that Tottenham will just bottle it and they will lose it. They got a draw. They didn't particularly play very very well against Wolves, but they won. Once again, 3 games into the season, they're looking okay. Mr. Hinder advised people to put a tenner that they might win the league. So has fortune changed for Tottenham, Mr. Hinder? Are you still looking at the form now with just 3 games in? Do you still think that there's a slight possibility because of the Conte factor that they might actually go on to do great things this season?
I said it before. Conte's a winner. I mean, that Spurs team is playing dog shit at the moment, but they're grinding out results, right? And that's them playing bad. If you think of like a slow start to the season and them still being in the top without really of dropping a massive amount of points, like that's a really good start. If they had 7 points and they were playing worldy, and you'd be like, oh yeah, they're firing on all cylinders. But the fact that everyone knows that they've got gears to go up at the moment, and they're still looking for players to improve on that squad, and he's still shipping players out. I think that's frightening for other teams in the Prem. Conte is a winner, and he's demanding it off his players. I think Perisic's 33 the other day. It looked like he had legs of an 18-year-old. I mean, he was running and doing bits. I thought he played really really well. Harry Kane scored already. You know, he hasn't got to wait 5 months to get a goal this season. He's already on fire. I don't understand the marking against him, but other than that, like it's so positive at Spurs that you're winning with such a low. I want to say low quality when I know that they've got gears. I think they're still going to do well. That result against Chelsea on the day seemed really, really good. You now look at it and go, even Leeds can beat Chelsea. So not actually that good anymore, right? But at the particular point, it was everyone was a really good result. We have to talk about Chelsea at some point as well. But yeah, I think Spurs
Did
doing
this
really
man
well.
hear the introduction to this show?
Yeah, I'm saying we have to talk about Chelsea. So if you're listening now, we will be talking about Chelsea soon. Just getting them excited. I'm whetting the appetite.
Okay.
Someone's got to fluff people before it happens, right?
Okay, and that someone is Mr. Hinder, ladies and gentlemen. Is
Mhm.
fluffing people,
Yeah.
people. Okay, Big Steve, your neighbors in North London, your sweet rivals. As Mr. Hinder said, it's 7 points from games that are not particularly played well. Do you think is there possibility? We keep thinking that the next gear is up, they'll start playing really well and then winning even better, winning in style. Could it be a possibility that the next gear is them going down, where they actually start losing these games?
It could be because last season there were 3
I'm sure
games.
you hope it. Yeah, I'm sure you hope it would be. But yeah,
Last season there were 3 games, 9 points under Nuno at this stage last season. So, and they didn't even have a Harry Kane. So, yeah, Conte is a factor. He has changed the mentality around the team. I do back them to. I do think they will do better than last season. But again, it's Spurs, isn't it? Anything can happen.
he says that with the hope that something does happen.
Anything can happen. They've not played fantastic, and it's going to be interesting for Conte to bed it all in, because a lot of what I've seen in the game so far is that the new signings haven't had that much of an influence into the games that they've been playing. They've all been coming on the subs. So how does Richarlison fit in? Basuma in the middle.
Really well, actually.
Perisic started against Wolves, and he played really well. Played really well, and usually people think there'll be a struggle, at his age, 33, coming into the Premier League. Well, you clearly see he's kept himself good, fit. Kulusevski, well, from last season. Son hasn't started firing yet, but so yes, maybe there's a possibility that things will get better instead of worse. Big Dunk, do you see, as these guys have mentioned, the fact that so Spurs are not particularly playing well? Conte is an interesting factor. Is helping the team. Is pushing them. Is this just a case that, regardless of them not playing well in terms of scoring or outbossing teams, but they're doing the basics really well, defending well, and getting stuck in, not being afraid to, like what Spurs used to be, or is it just Conte as a factor?
Yeah, well, like Neil said, he's a winner. He's got the mentality drilled into him, and as a fan, you always want your teams to be playing really well, playing entertaining football. But the one thing you're going to want is for your team to win and get results. So they're doing that at the minute, even though they're not playing particularly well. I'm trying to think, what was their first game? Someone remind me off the top of my head.
Southampton.
What was the score in that one?
4-1.
4-1. So yeah, they had a good performance there, and then since then they got lucky against Chelsea. So probably both the goals could have been chalked off, and then they've scraped one against Wolves. So your question, what you asked, Steve, could the gear go down? Yeah, of course it could. My word this season, JJ, we've all got our words. My word this season is going to be momentum, because I've mentioned it a couple of times already in the last couple of weeks. So at the minute
they need accountability for that momentum?
No, there's no accountability for momentum.
Whose word is accountability?
Oh, wonderful.
But in answer to your question, yeah, they could lose the next game, or like it could even happen with a scenario they might play better and still lose the next game. So that can always happen. So you want to keep the momentum going. You want to get results. You want to get points on the board at the end of the day. So again, I don't think Spurs fans are going to be too concerned if the performances aren't like amazing at this stage of the season. And then even if you do get a defeat, how do you deal with that defeat? Like, do you bounce straight back from it, or do you get another bad result, get another draw or a defeat? And that's where the momentum comes in. So again, so like we saw it with Arsenal, like towards the end of last season, they had that huge like poor run. They had a really good long run, and then they had that huge poor run. So you need to keep the momentum going and try and not get sucked into a bad cycle, independent of performances, whether your performances are good or if they're not.
But
the thing is, Conte's in a nice position, yeah, because Tottenham's desperate for success. So they don't care how they win the game, so long as they win. And if they can win a trophy, they don't care about style or anything like that. So he's in a very fortunate position. Whereas in other clubs, it would be a case of, we're going to win, but we want to win it in style, or we want to win it in our way. So
yeah, but there's only two clubs in the league like that at the moment. There's only Liverpool and City. You can't say Arsenal are even of that ilk, because they were absolutely atrocious against Palace in ground that an absolute poor performance, but got the win.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, if you're going to win a trophy, if you're going to win something, they'll still say they want to win it in playing a certain style of football. That's how.
We all want the West Ham way, right? Like we all want to win, but I think ultimately fans come down to, is the football half okay? Like, it doesn't have to be the most entertaining, but if you're winning, you're still happy, right? You're still singing. It's if it comes to the point where it's boring and you've got 11 men behind the ball after 5 minutes. I don't think there's going to be any danger of that. You made a comment earlier about Richarlison not fitting in, or his players not playing, JJ. Like, Richarlison, what a great player just to bring on there, just to give someone a rest. Like, regardless of who it is, if he gets 30 minutes at the end of the game or whatever, that is a top draw player to bring on. And if he does that for the whole season and he's happy enough, then like that is an amazing signing just to be able to do that. You look at some of the other clubs in the league of like, who do they bring on? With Jadon Sancho, great. But like, they're bringing on Richarlison, who just runs the ball down, right? He doesn't stop when he comes on. And if they bring on Basuma as a player to bring on, again, what a luxury to bring on. You've got your steady Eddies in.
Ladies and gentlemen, Man United did not play, and this boy still can't let it go.
Yeah, well, they're playing on the day this comes out, so they're all sitting there going, right, let's watch the show before it's all ruined after that game.
I'm so happy to take at least a week before you guys see me again, before we can talk about Sancho, Maguire. But I mean, one of the things you mentioned, bringing in Richarlison from the bench is all good. He'll have his time. Champions League is still there. They have other competitions. And if he comes on and he makes an impact, it's all good. So Spurs look like they're ready for the season. Arsenal look like they're ready for the season. 3 games in. North London looks like they're good to go. It would be interesting when the North London derby actually happens, and to see in
1st of October.
Momentum and other situations, see what happens. So all good for the North London people. Now moving on to the newly promoted clubs. And so Nottingham Forest. Yes, Steve.
Very interesting about the North London clubs. is the Richarlison and Jesus competition, because whoever performs well there is probably going to lead the line for Brazil in the World Cup.
Don't they play
So-
together? Usually they play them together on the same team. I think Richarlison comes in from the right or left. I think they already play together, but you never see. You never know. However, if it's based on
Won't
that,
Neymar be laning the line?
no,
No.
that everybody knows.
Left.
Neymar's shirt, his name is number one. We're talking about these other two hustling and struggling to get the team.
It's
But we shall
11
see.
forwards, right?
Yep, I swear, Brazil 11 forwards, probably 12 if possible with the coach. But we shall see. Anyway, moving on to the newly promoted sides. Nottingham Forest getting a draw with Everton. Bournemouth, unfortunately, have had tough fixtures. Played Man City and then played Arsenal, that happens to be in form, even if the first half
We just
wasn't
need
that
to make
wonderful.
a comment about Bournemouth, because last week, I really remember Duncan saying that Bournemouth will get something out of that game.
He says they usually do.
Every week, you should get something out of it. And then I was thinking, there's a reason why they're not getting anything out of games this year in the Prem. They haven't got Eddie Howe, right?
Did I say they were getting something out of that game? What was my prediction,
said-
Neil? What was my prediction for that game?
You went, oh, usually they get something out of that game. And I'm thinking it's Eddie Howe, right? And then and Eddie Howe got something out of the game today against City. So you're 100% right. Eddie Howe does get something out of against Man City, and he got it today against them with that draw.
Like Bournemouth, when they were in the Premier League before, would compete with the top teams. And I've sat in a pub and I've watched Bournemouth beat Arsenal. My Arsenal supporting friend was over visiting when that happened, and I can remember when we've beaten Liverpool as well. So just on Bournemouth, like I'm a little bit concerned at this stage that they were tough fixtures, Man City and Arsenal, but really poor performance, not done anything to them, not laid a glove on them. So there's, like, from my point of view, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. But again, like, the real acid test of Bournemouth is how are they going to perform against similar level teams? Like, so there's going to be, come the end of the season, there's probably going to be like whatever 6, 7, 8 teams down in that bottom half of the table. How are they going to perform against those? But I think there's definitely some work to be done after the last 2 games, and just going out with an absolute whimper.
We're talking about Bournemouth, and mentioning that is based on what you've said. So they have played, in terms of stepping up their level, they played Arsenal, top form, played City, champions. They beat Villa. So there is this a possible, or is this a case that, okay, Villa and clubs within that area, as you've mentioned, that's their level, and when it comes to playing the top boys, they still haven't found a way to raise that level. So don't you think it's a bit too early for you to be panicking, or anybody should be panicking for Bournemouth?
Oh, I'm not panicking. I never said that, JJ. I said I've got some slight concerns, like, over the performances, and like I said, when Bournemouth were in the Premier League the last time, they did compete with the top teams. They certainly didn't get rolled every, like, I wouldn't have gone.
Not the last time.
I know, but like, a lot of the squad is the same, as I've said before. Like, at least half the squad is the same as last time we were in the Prem. So yeah, I'm just developing some concerns, possibly like with Scott Parker's tactics, about how he goes out against the top teams and being too negative. Now, I know they didn't have Solanke available for the Arsenal game, and Kiefer Moore was up front. Like, he's not really like.
Stop laughing, Neil, when you hear Solanke.
He's not really top draw material, Kiefer Moore. He's more, you're like. He's like Steve Fletcher. He was a Bournemouth legend who used to play like big target man up front, but I wouldn't want like that to be the leading line. So I'm not sure when Solanke's back. But again, like, I want to see, if you're going to be playing Arsenal's and Man City's, don't like park the bus and like hope.
Is it fair to say that they're so wanky without Solanke?
Sorry,
no, that's completely unfair, Neil. Completely unfair.
I watched the game, and they were really, really, really poor. Like it was over before it even started. It felt like on that game, and it was a fair point. You said they beat JJ. You said they beat Villa.
Yep.
But everyone is like,
no,
they
not
look,
everyone.
They look poor. Everton drew, didn't they? But they look poor. Villa do really poor.
No, Villa beat Everton 2-1.
It was like a loss. It's only 2.
Yeah.
You have to get through it at least against Everton to be counted as a win now. Otherwise, it's a loss. But they look poor. They look poor on the weekend as well. So I think Duncan's right. Down that bottom 7, 8, they could all go down.
Yep.
Obviously, they can't all go down, but they could. And like, could be up or down, right? Or medium.
Yep.
either win or
So
lose. Depending on what that gear is going to be, JJ.
it depends on the gear. Big Steve, when you can stop laughing at Mr. Hinder, when Mitrovic. So the last time he was in the Premier League, he was which was under Scott Parker actually. He wasn't playing as many games, didn't score as many goals. He's back in now. Marco Silva, manager for Fulham. 3 games in. I'm emphasizing that because people not get carried away. But is it just a change? He had a very good season last season, championship and for his country. Is it just a change of he's continuing that momentum, or and the form is just there, or is it a different mindset now? The manager is trusting him. Or they're playing because I've always seen him as one of them strikers. You have to play to his style. Is that what the case is at the moment?
Yeah, it's all of those things basically. He's got confidence. He believes in himself and his ability. He's got a manager that plays to his strengths and backs him. And all those coming together is why he started the way he started. I think he will definitely have a better season than when he was last in the Premier League with Fulham under Scott Parker. That squad had some issues, training ground fights, and all that kind of madness. But at Fulham now, he's the main guy. Marco Silva believes in him, and I think we're seeing the benefits of that. And he'll have a very good season.
Well, it's looking like you have a good season. So once again, I'm going to bring out the oracle, the ball where Dunk always looks at. Dunk, how many goals do you think Mitrovic has scored this season?
Did we predict this before?
No, I think we did it for other players. I don't think we did it for Mitrovic, or did we? I can't remember.
I can't remember. Well, he's already got 3 and 3, so he's
And he has missed the penalty.
Yeah. So he's not. I mean, I don't think he's going to obviously he's not going to stay on that level of goals. He's probably someone who might have a drop in form somewhere in the season. But looking at Mitrovic, you could definitely go for 14, 15 around that area. I'd say if he has a really good season, possibly more. But I'll put my money on around 15. I'd say for Mitrovic.
15, Jesus 18 to 20. It's looking like it's going to be a goal fest season. Now, Nottingham Forest, getting a draw against Everton. Mr. Hinder has mentioned Everton not particularly being, the best judgment in terms of the way they're playing so far. But surely, getting a draw away, that's a good result for Nottingham Forest, Mr. Hinder?
Yeah, but we're talking at levels in the Prem, right? So we'd be expecting Villa to be a lot more confident at beating Everton than maybe you'd get Notts Forest. So Notts Forest have done well, and I think they've signed well. I don't know, they might have maybe overly signed in there. But if you look at Fulham signed a few good players and haven't got that many new players in, but enough because it's a big gulf up, right? And for Mitrovic to score goals, he needs to supply, which is key. And then you look at it's Notts Forest again, a lot of players, but they want to stay in the Prem. So although it looks like it's quite bad, you've got to think all clubs that are in the Prem must have big old transfer target lists of who they want to have and who they want to sign, whether it's first, second, third. They must be discussing it constantly, and they've just gone out and gone, you know what, we'll just strengthen. We'll spend all our money, rightly or wrongly, but we want to stay in the Prem because that's where we want to stay, and that's where the good money is at, season after season. And then you look at Bournemouth, who have done the complete opposite, just barely signed in anyone to bolster that squad, and they look like then that team doesn't look like it's up for the challenge currently. And I know they're 2 harder games, but they don't look like it. Where Fulham had that really good result against Liverpool. Let's not forget that from that side of things. So they look like they're up for it. Forest would be a nice success story, nice feel-good story for staying in the Prem and doing well. And I think, although the Lingard is obviously there for the cash,
and to play
and play football, yeah, nothing to do with the money. It's still an absolute quality signing because you don't get players of that quality for the bottom clubs, if that makes sense. And if you look on the paper for the beginning of the season, you can say they're bottom 3, bottom 5, right up robust. But having someone that good there really does just bring everybody's game up as well. I think that's just a great signing, and other players will want to sign with him. And only having a year, it's a no-brainer from the copious amounts of money that he's going to get paid. And if it does really well, then maybe he stays on for another year, or he gets a massive contract elsewhere. But yeah, I think Forest look competitive, and I think that's a really good word for the start of the season of where teams are looking, because no one's in their stride. But what you don't want to be is having games where you look like your shop's closed and you look like everyone's gone home, and that's really the worst that you can have from any feeling of any game ever. I've been a Wednesday fan. I've seen it when everyone just looks like they've given up, and you're like, man, I'm still supporting you. At least try, like, and then it's sad from a fan's point of view. So yeah, like a
Well, this is this at this point again. I'm bringing out the crystal ball, but this time it's not for Dunk. Big Steve. So with Bournemouth, Fulham, and Nottingham Forest, are they all staying up? Who do you think? Do you think any of them is going to go down? Once again, early, and I'm sure we've already predicted this, but these things change based on what we're seeing week in, week out. So, what are you saying?
Bournemouth to go down, Fulham and Forest will give it a very good shot and possibly stay up.
Possibly, but you're certainly sure that Bournemouth goes down.
Yeah, I think because there's been no investment for Bournemouth. Sorry, Dunk, but because of no investment, and it seems that Scott Parker, especially in the big games, is a bit of a defeatist attitude. It's not we're going out and compete, and then whatever the result is, it's like before they've even started, they've already lost the game. So that's why
This
such
is
a
the
poor
same
performance
Scott
against them.
Parker that was famous for that speech he gave, man. Just a couple of
Yeah,
months ago,
maybe,
a few
but
months
it's
ago.
just that's the impression he gives off when they've played the big teams so far this season, is that they've already defeated. They're not even out there competing, and you can see it in the performance of the players on the pitch. So
Dresses well, though.
bad there that even the color of the seats has changed to white. That's how little investment that they're taking as well, though. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, that's a sunny side. Like, you're in
Well,
the Prem. Make it look pretty.
Well, we
but,
should see. We should see how it goes for them. See how it goes for them. Things could change. Well, we don't know how many. Don't know how many players they can bring in from now till the 1st of September. But things could change, and their style of play could change. They could get that flow that they got against Villa. But we will see. However, the good thing about Big Dunk is Big Dunk supports Bournemouth, supports Leeds, and he's proudly wearing the Leeds jersey now because today Ted Lasso and his boys, you know, did have been impressing. I mean, they could have had 9 points if they didn't give it away last week. But today it was a good victory in Ellen Road. Leeds 3, Chelsea 0. But we're going to start with a situation as we have seen it already happen with David De Gea, First mistake, Brentford wipes Man United. And now we talk about Mendy. So, in one of our shows last season, Mr. Hinder has always said he doesn't think Mendy is great. Big Steve actually called Mendy the greatest African greatest African keeper to have played in the Premier League. However,
I think the statement of ref would be more apt after today.
and then, however, the thing here is Mendy made a mistake. And then after that, it looked like, Leeds were just going to sail through. On our WhatsApp group, Big Steve was like, oh, yeah, maybe he's lost his confidence. It was one mistake, though, guys. One mistake. I'll start with you, Big Dunk, because Neil will go on forever about him being right about Mendy.
And you want me to talk about Chelsea keeper's mistake? Go on, ask
No,
one of them
we're
about Chelsea
starting.
keeper's mistake.
We're starting there. We're starting there.
Come on, Doug. Don't talk about anything good that happened for Leeds. Just talk about that.
We're starting there. Do you agree that Mendy has lost his way already from one mistake? It was just one game, one mistake. And then, of course, Leeds played well. But what's the story with Mendy? Do you agree that his time is gone?
You can't write a keeper off after one mistake. I tell you what, he won't be trying that one again in any other games this season. It was pretty shocking. Like, I don't know exactly what he thought he was going to do, what he was attempting to do, but he took at least like 2 or 3 touches, and then he completely misjudged it, and Aronson dispossessed him, and easy tapping. So I don't think you can write off any keeper after one mistake. If he starts consistently making mistakes, then we'll start to point more fingers of suspicion at him. But it's one game, and again, it's like the De Gea situation. Like it's a mistake, but then your team gets absolutely ran over during the game. So that's kind of like heightening how bad it looks. So would Chelsea have lost without that mistake? But based on the performances, I'd argue they would have lost that match even without the mistake. But again, like it's being jumped on a little bit because of the result, same as De Gea against Brentford.
Big Steve, do you still think his confidence has gone after the mistake?
So let me just clarify my statement. It's not just the fact that his confidence has gone after the one mistake. This is something that seems to have been crept into Mendy's game from the back end of last season. He came into the Premiership and he was much more comfortable and confident with his feet. But since second half of last season, he just seems different. And he's now a very good shot stopper. He hesitates when he's playing the ball with his feet, misplacing passes and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I meant by when he's lost his confidence. He just doesn't seem the same goalkeeper as to when he first came to Chelsea. And that's where these mistakes are coming from.
Well, he did make a mistake last season against West Ham and put them back in the game. So I don't know about the confidence thing because the man, African champion, doing well, he's made one or two mistakes. I really don't know if it's a confidence issue.
So confidence in his feet.
Oh,
he's still a good shot. He's still a good shot stopper. But when he came to Chelsea, he was much more comfortable with his feet and playing the ball out and stuff. But recently, this season, back in the last season, he just doesn't look the same.
I'm not going to ask Mr. Hinder about Mendy because he's just going to go. What I'm going to ask Mr. Hinder is a question that Dunk wanted. Mr. Hinder, what's changed with Leeds? Why they starting the season so well? Rodrigo seems to be on form. What is the change that Mr. Marsh has instilled in the Leeds team so far, at least with the 3 games?
20 grand bung to Mendy for... How do I know? I'm talking about Mendy. I don't care. Like, there was a howler, and then there's a level of howler. That was a bad first touch, a bad second touch, and an atrocious third touch. Like, he had plenty of time to clear that ball and didn't. That's unacceptable from a keeper to do that. De Gea was at least trying to save the ball really badly last week, but mucked up. This was such another level. I don't want to say Bruce Grobbelaar-esque, but we're talking of how the hell did that happen to a player in the Premier League? Like it's obscene. I was really impressed with Leeds from start to finish, though. And as a Wednesday fan, that pains me to say because they were playing at Bell End Road, and I thought Leeds were really, really good, a really good value for their money. They worked hard across the board. Rodrigo looks a phenomenal player this season, and maybe it's better that some of the other names have gone and given a chance to some of the other players, the other team players to come in. The young American player looks decent as well, which is decent for them. Harrison, there's so many good things happening at Leeds. It's sickly, like here sickly. Even the fact that the manager's wearing jeans. I don't think I've ever seen a manager wear jeans on the side before. Like they're so casual at Leeds. They're just wearing jeans and shirts. It's phenomenal.
Maybe it's the sponsorship. Maybe it's like, want you to wear jeans, man. Look cool, make it seem nice. Annoy the Wednesday fans.
Make the soccer ball look really good. It's so positive, and I obviously under Bielsa they had that period where it was going a bit wrong, and I think as football fans it gets sour quite quickly. I'm not sure if it's because we all get negative if our team's doing bad, or we just want the manager to change it up. Or we've got that nostalgia with them of how good they were, and why can't they bring it back? No, they can't. They've got to go, and we get somebody else in. Would he have turned it around? I don't know. But the whole club seems to be a little bit more happy. I don't know if that's the momentum definitely seems on their side. Everyone seems wonderful at the moment, and I think that's really important that everyone's accountable. On the players to make sure that they're doing what they should be doing. They were in the right positions today, and that was an absolutely fantastic fantastic performance for Leeds, and that just cements the fact that I think Tuchel's out of his depth, like I've been saying for a long time. And why the F are Chelsea looking to extend his contract is that one game just should say no, not. And I don't think one game defines a season, but that is the epitome of what has happened and the follow-on of everything that is going wrong at Chelsea. Even James was poor today. He was offside and he's playing on the wing. He was like 2 yards off, and I'm like, that is an error, a really easy, simple error. Sterling looked off the pace, which didn't take long for him to look off the pace, to be fair. It was the Leeds were that good that they made Chelsea look really poor. And I don't know if that was just a blip for Chelsea, but massive kudos to the whole of that Leeds team today for working their socks off from start to finish and getting an absolutely fantastic result, regardless of if Mendy should be in goal or shouldn't ever play again.
Positives, Big Dong, positives. Let's go positives. What's the difference? So, once again, we'll come back to your favorite word so far, momentum. Leeds staying up last season, that probably would have inspired everybody. There was a bit of worry in terms of, losing Phillips, losing Rafinha, and with the buys that Marsh has made. However, from these 3 games, what do you think has been the difference between this season with Leeds and last season? Because they still have the work ethic, they still have the, pressing forward, counter-attack. So what do you think he has tweaked so far that's looking like Leeds are playing really well?
Yeah, there was a good interview with Radriziani, the chairman, who was talking about when he had to sack Bielsa, and just said that it was his unwillingness to change. He was all in on his philosophy, and he was saying when they change managers, there was kind of a bit of relief around the players about how there was a change of approach, and that kind of focused the minds and made them a bit happier. He said that the environment is a lot happier. So yeah, I think when they made the managerial change last season, it definitely had the desired effect. He had the manager bounce. We got the results and we stayed up. But one of the main reasons they went for Jesse Marsh is because of his ethic and how he gets teams playing. And he was saying it after the game, in Chelsea, when he manages a team, whatever league it's been in, his team has run the furthest and the hardest, outperformed all the other teams in the league in those stats. And like he was saying after the game, they might lose, but you're not gonna work harder than us in the game. So that's his mentality, which it's fairly similar to Bielsa in just go in for it, let's go for it. But I think it's a lot more structured under Marsh, the way they play. Hopefully he's a bit more flexible tactically as well. So we saw against last week against Southampton, he didn't really react quick enough in the subs. So that there's a little concern there. But we're talking here 3-0 against Chelsea, who all of us were saying top 4 or thereabouts by the end of the season, and totally outperform them. So it's that is a really good result. And I, for one, I was never that worried when we were talking about the exits of Rafinha and Phillips. I was never hugely worried because I never said I was worried about those. You can, I will clip stuff for this man here making noises at me. There was no one point where I said, "Oh my God, I'm really worried." I said, "There's no way we're going down this season." And I think he's
Still
invested.
early.
It's still early, but it's the opposite to what I've been saying about Bournemouth today. We're competing, seriously competing, and if we're going to get that throughout the season, we've got a bigger squad now. I think he's invested really wisely in the players we brought in with the squad. Players like Aronson have been absolutely class in the first 3 games. If Rodrigo keeps that up, Rodrigo has never said before, he's never a serious goal scorer. He's already got 4 goals in 3 games, so. Everything's looking really good, so totally happy with the performances at the minute. And I would be saying other teams, let's see what happens when Leeds plays a contender. We've just slapped Chelsea around at Ellen Road, so there we go. They might not be title contenders, but they're definitely in the top 5 or 6 clubs in the league. So that super happy, super happy.
Do you think Dunk, as a Leeds fan, obviously losing Phillips was a great player, right? Regardless, he's not easily to replace. But the types of players that he's brought in, hungry players, they all look like they're all from the Bundesliga, all of them, pretty much, apart from Sinisteri, right? So, but they look like they're players that are already well equipped and understanding of what Marsh wants to get across to them. And in the midfield, it looks like it's important, regardless if you're the attacking midfielder or you're the central defensive midfielder. You're actually in there and you're closing down that ball and you're running hard. Do you think that getting rid of Phillips has actually been maybe a bonus because you've got new players in and working under the way of Marsh?
Yeah, you can look at it that way. Like there's nothing negatives happened so far. Like Phillips is obviously a great player, but he's done the kind of what Ten Hag's trying to do and get players that have played for him before. Only he's done it a lot more successfully because we've actually got them for reasonable prices. So like Aronson, I think it is Christensen, the right back. They're both from Salzburg, so the Austrian league. So again, you could say, will they be able to step up in quality? Like they already look like they have. They're both internationals. They both played under Marsh before. Then in the midfield, we've been playing Rocker and Adams, both 2 new signings. They're both Bundesliga players, and they've been really holding it down. So again, like everything's just really positive at the minute, and everything's working nicely.
And Leeds, which is even more disgusting, Leeds are in profit for transfers. They've spent £95 million on players, right? But they've managed to get back in 97. That's awesome.
And that's what
that's
is it? Is it 2 out and 6 in? Was it 6? I think it's 6.
If you look at the departures are huge because you've got obviously everyone they've let go.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pretty much.
With the fees, we're just talking
Phillips and Rafinha.
Yeah. So again, like before the season even kicked off, we'd made most of those signings, and I was positive about it and happy with what he'd done with the money.
He's done
Moving
good.
on from positivity and maybe not going to negativity, but slightly just bending the way. First of all, Big Dong took some lessons from Mr. Hinder. You could tell how happy he was. Just kept going on and on and on about Leeds. It's all good. And then Mr. Hinder added some more questions, so he went on and on. Big Steve, I'm going to ask you this because unlike these two, when they don't like somebody, there is no change in their minds. Tuchel, Mr. Hinder thinks he's not doing anything wonderful. Is this just a bleep? Is Tuchel going to get it right? Do you think he should still stay? Or do you think he's like Mr. Hinder, like, oh, maybe he's losing it?
If I was the new owner, I'd be looking at replacing him because again, he doesn't have he's not coming across as someone who's got a plan. And especially when you judge it on things that happened last season, Lukaku coming in, getting rid of Lukaku, they're still missing a forward. There's big gaping questions at Chelsea, and they shouldn't be in that position if they're under a world-class manager. Chelsea should know their targets, go and get them, but they're flitting and flopping between different signings and taking signings of people who's already interested. It seems a mess. And if he's a top manager, he shouldn't be in that position. Because not to say they haven't got money to sign players, they have, but there's no defined targets. I can't imagine Guardiola, Klopp, Conte, Ancelotti, Mourinho being in that situation.
So is the only redemption now you're saying? So come the end of the season, if Chelsea wins the FA Cup, for example, if they win the FA Cup under Tuchel,
and not challenge for the league,
would you take everything back, or he has to challenge for the what would be a successful season for Tuchel for you?
He should be challenging for the league. He should be much closer to Liverpool and Man City in the league.
So if Chelsea
he's finishing 2, he could finish 3rd, but it should be by a few points, not by 10, 15 points. He should be trying to get closer, and if he does that, it's going to be more out of luck than skill at the moment because, as I said, there's no plan at Chelsea, and a world-class manager should not be in this position. As I said, if it was a case of they weren't spending money, different, but they are. They're spending over the odds. Yeah, I always go and get this guy. The left back they bought, Cucurella, right? They only went for him after Man City were bidding for him. There was no talk about Chelsea needing a left back before. but then all of a sudden they've gone and spent double the amount of money on him, and there was no need for that position. When there's your striker, you don't have one. It just seems all over the place. And for Tuchel, he should be doing better. There should be a better structure there.
They've spent 181 million this season on new players, and with the players out, it's 153 million. I mean, that's not taking a massive loss on Timo Werner and Lukaku in there. You could work that would be like close to $250,000 of losses. That's ridiculous. That's a lot of money, and then to get whipped 3-0 by Leeds, man. Like, there's no other manager that's ever been there that would have had that grace.
Yeah, and it's also the manner that they've lost. It's not just they were unlucky. They were Leeds goalkeeper.
They were according to Tuchel in the post match. Chelsea were better.
He said they were the better team, but it's not to say they worked the Leeds goalkeeper a lot. They hit the woodwork a lot of times. They just don't look. They don't look like they have a plan. I keep saying plan, but they just don't look like a team. You know what I mean? Even Ten Hag can get away with it at Man United because he's just come in. It's his first few months. Tuchel's been there, 18 months already? And you're meant to be one of the world's best. Should be in a much better place.
And I think we all agreed, like, it's things were just looking weird. Like, there's something off about Chelsea. It wasn't like going smoothly from pre-season. And then you look at their 3 games. Was it Everton they beat 1-0?
2-0.
2-0, was it? Okay, so they beat Everton. No mean feat there.
Still doesn't count. It's not 3.
But then Spurs, they actually like played really well and were unlucky with the decisions, and now they get smacked. So
he's gone from slap to smack. I like
smacked.
It.
Whatever you want to call it. So again, it's just unstable. Like, it's just a bit weird at Chelsea. It's unstable. We have to see how it pans out. But he needs to get a grasp of the situation pretty quick if we're talking about Tuchel.
But that's going to be hard to do, right? Because if you're analysing the game afterwards and you think that you're the better team and got beat 3-0, you've got no hope. There's no way that anyone could come out and say we're the better team and we got beat 3-0. Like, if it was 1-0 and it was just that absolute howler, you'd go, all right, you know what? I'll give you the benefit of the doubt there. But that's 3-0. You can't lose a game 3-0 and be the better team because you haven't scored any fucking goals. That's the one thing about football.
The other thing he said was about changing the system at half time. And then he goes, well, I changed the system. But it turns out it wasn't the system. It was the players implementing it. So maybe I should have left it the same. Those comments, like, what?
And that's the thing. Those kind of comments coming from him doesn't bode well for the team or the squad that they're going to be able to turn it around and be successful, which is why I said if Tuchel stays there, I can't see them making top 4.
Well, we shall see. Well, it turns out that Tuchel seems to be like he's delusional as well. Saying things like we were the better team after losing 3-0 and coming up. I mean, his press conferences are a bit funny. I'm not going to lie. He seems to just see something else that nobody else does. But we shall see. It's just one game. They have 4 points from possible 9. And maybe the players will click. They're still from now to the 1st of September before he buys anybody, or he might buy a striker. We don't know. He does have a striker. He has Broha on the bench. But we don't know. As you say, sometimes it might look like he doesn't have a plan, but...
Koulibaly was sent off as well, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So what do you do in defence now?
Well, that's a good question. He still does. Don't you have...
You buy someone. You buy someone for next week.
Doesn't he have
Maguire, because he's been linked.
Chalobah is still on the bench.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just,
I mean, Maguire going to Chelsea is so nice. So nice for the world of Manchester.
I was talking to my dad about United today because they've obviously been Rashford's been linked with leaving and Maguire's been linked with leaving, and you're like, I could feel over 100 million coming in for these 2 players, and they're like, nah, they're not for sale.
Well,
no, they're not for sale. Leeds just sold Calvin Phillips and still continue to win games. Like
I don't know why. I
let them go.
I can understand why Rashford is not for sale. Maguire, though, I have no idea. Moving on to one of Dunk's favorite people, and a man that he believes is the savior of England.
Is it Harry Maguire?
No, he's not one of your favorite people. I mean, leave Man United alone, people. Please, they're not playing till later on. Just let them go. You could talk about them next week when we beat Liverpool.
We've got a whole special on them next week.
A whole special. Well, Eddie Howe, good results considering against Man City today. However, Big Steve leading 3-1, and yes, I know Man City are the champions, but leading 3-1 against Man City, should Newcastle have done better?
He will be gutted that they didn't get the 3 points. The fact that they were 3-1 up, and City just got the goals in a very short space of time to make it 3-3 because they were very, very good in the first half. Should have probably put away a couple more chances. I'm actually impressed with what Eddie Howe's done at Newcastle last season when he was appointed, and I was a bit, I don't know if he'll be there a long time, but what he's done, the signings, the way they're playing the game, yeah, I think he's done a really good job. But yeah, he would definitely be gutted that they didn't win the game. But then I also think that there's a bit of fortune that Trippier stayed on the pitch and they weren't playing 10 men. So
Just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this on audio, and Mr. Hinder loves Trippier. So when Steve said that, he was giving the eye roll, like, oh my God. But before we actually go to Mr. Hinder, because I know he for some reason, he loves Newcastle really, really well. Doug, I remember when we used to talk about, will Eddie Howe stay? Will they give him a long contract? And he signed a long contract. Newcastle seemed to be playing really well. Was today a testament to the fact that they might still need, once again, they're playing the best team in the country, but is a testament to that, okay, they might still need a tune up, certain players to come in because leading 3-1, at that point, I mean, some certain things should have been done to try and maintain.
Look, it's a tough job to hold out Manchester City, like for any period of time. When they get their flow going, they're fairly rampant. But just on like the Newcastle team, like just to go through it, like they spent a bit of money, but they haven't made massive signings. And you look at their team, like for example, they've got Almiron, Wilson, and St. Maximin up front. All existing players when he was there. Willock and Joel Linton in midfield. Bruno was one he signed. Botman's come in for that game at central defence, and he's playing Byrne at left back as well. So like, let's not pretend or talk like, oh, he got saved. Eddie Howe's just spent a load of money and has made it good. Like he's made those players perform really well. And if you're talking about competing, like that game today, they'll still come away with a 3-3 draw against Man City, like the hottest team in England. Like they've really competed in that game. So again, like Eddie Howe's still a legend in my estimation. I have naughty dreams about him managing Leeds one day, but it's a great result. And like when you look at what Newcastle did last season, like you got them up the table. Like just a quick poll here: where would you, even like not even now, like before pre-season, where would you think Newcastle would finish? Like 7th, 8th? Any better? Anyone think they'd do better than that? And they're getting a 3-3 draw with Man City. Like that's still a really good result. And Eddie Howe's doing a great job.
Mr. Hinder,
his signings have been impressive.
Mr. Hinder, Trippier should he have stayed on the pitch? Because you were eye rolling there. Should he have stayed on the pitch, or do you think it was a good call?
It's the right call. There was no studs up. It wasn't done any more malice than I want to say, it was a foul to stop him running through, right? He get on below the kneecap and the studs were down. So it was a yellow for me, not because it was Kieran Trippier, but it was just a yellow card. There was no malice. That wasn't out of control of it. He wasn't trying to kill him or anything like that. He went straight over and apologised. But De Bruyne didn't make a big song and dance. Maybe that helped. Got on with it from that side of things. It would have been a shame to see him have had a red from that side of things. In there, picking up on a couple of points that Dunk made there. He's right. I mean, they've spent just under 60 million this season on players. And then obviously you got the big influx they had, but they bought really sensibly because they needed a new goalkeeper to take them up a level. And Pope, who's 30, well, it seems like he's been around for no time at all, really. But Nick Pope's 30, very, very good acquisition for little to no money at 10 million. Botman and looks a decent player, but playing Bone left back, like I initially thought something was wrong with my TV because I'm thinking maybe they're playing 3 at the back, right? The guy's about 8'7". He's pretty much built like Botman, right? They're 2 massive centre backs, and then you've got Kieran Trippier proper fullback that we would know, bombing up and down, great cross. And then you've got Burn, like old school, no nonsense centre back who can play football as well, but you're never picking him at left back in a million years. But he's gone with that to nullify, I think, as well, Man City's attack.
Bond played left back for Brighton against Man United a few seasons ago, and I've seen he has played left back a few times for Brighton, though. So why is this shocking that he's playing left back today?
It's shocking because you've got one of the richest club in the world, and they're playing a big, tall, strong centre back as left back, who is there for a reason. I think maybe tactically as well. I think to help nullify Man City. Your question was earlier with about their 3-1 up. Should they have won the game? I mean, you're going to want to have won the game at 3-1, but Eddie Howe's in a no-win situation unless they win on that particular point. He goes, all right, we need to shore up the back. He doesn't have any bigger centre-backs left to bring on at that particular point. But what does he do? Does he go play more defensive and try and hold out, but then say Man City get 2 goals anyway, and you're like, you should have carried on because actually you were playing really well. The counter-attack was working beautifully. You were spreading the defence open like they were Harry Maguire and Varane at the back. It was that woeful, right?
There we go.
And they were really, and it shows actually, if you look at like Liverpool, we say it before, like you've got the wing back so high up, that they're easy to get around. And it's the same with City. And I think Newcastle today did that really, really well. They had some really big pace, and I don't understand why they didn't pay more attention to St. Maximin, who pretty much is one of the quickest players in the league. So I think that was a little bit of naivety. Them coming back into the game was always going to be the case. They've got the threat. They've got Haaland. They've got Bernardo Silva that they're trying to get on a longer contract. Who is probably underestimated in a lot of walks. And
I think Pep is the only one that underestimates that guy, because everybody knows he's a world-class player. I don't even understand the whole question of them wanting to let him go. I know they want him to sign a contract. He wants to go. I don't know what the situation is with that guy. But
I think it's financially as well, because if he doesn't sign, you're then going to end up going, he's going to go cheaper the year after, or he goes on a free. They don't really want that. It doesn't make sense to the FFP. They just bought Haaland and they want to continue to build. So from I know they're a rich club, but from the sensibleness, you don't want to let a player run his contract down and then leave. Get rid of them if they want to go. Don't hold them against their will. Don't be United and Ronaldo. Don't hold them till they. I can get digs in all day about everything can link back to United. You just need to be sensible with it. But I think Dunk's right. Eddie Howe's done a fantastic job. I think if he continues, he would make a fantastic England manager in his hopefully later years. He's too young now.
No, but he's not going to go to England. He's going to go to Leeds and fulfill Dunk's dreams.
After the Leeds, once he's finished all of that, then it's interesting to see that, because he's still young, so he's very much, I want to say, brought up on the current style of football. Whereas, how will he be in 10 years' time? Will he continue to progress through? How, that's when it becomes a little bit different. When I was a kid, it was all 4-4-2. No one had thought of any other formation. It was just 4-4-2, Sunday League, all the way through, grassroots, all the way up. No one played anything different. And suddenly, I don't know, I'm about 18, and suddenly teams are playing in different formations.
I think it's fair to say with Eddie Howe, like when Newcastle got taken over, and like they were being linked to loads of people, like I don't think most people would have had Eddie Howe on their list, and probably a lot of people wouldn't have thought he'd have lasted past last season as well. But it's testament to like the job he's done in the last half of last season, and already started off great this season, that he is a good manager.
It was a good result for. Go on. Do we think that
Newcastle are being sensible about their transfers and about biding their time to challenge for the? I mean, you can't instantly say I'm going to challenge for the Prem. It doesn't work like that. But you have to build up over years. Is this a maturity of the owners as well to say that we're going to do it slowly and correctly, but there is money in the kitty to buy?
I think definitely, yeah. They're going about it a different way to other clubs that have had like big takeovers. Like even like Chelsea have always had money, but they've just been taken over and whap. You know, what did we say they spent? 180 million. Like that wasn't Newcastle. I think they spent sensibly in the 2 transfer windows they've had, and they've spent wisely. And again, you look at the squad they've got and the lineup, even in that Man City match, like they've still got a lot of their squad that they had last season that were not performing well at the start of last season. So it's obviously things are developing and those players are upping their levels and performing better. But yeah, they definitely look like they're taking a good approach and taking their time.
How good was Wilson today? He was great. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole game. I thought, and actually an advertisement for the Prem, that was a perfect game as well. It was end to end, was VAR, was goals, it was fun. It was a fun game to watch.
The man asked the question and answered it himself, man. Like that was classic. That's how.
It's just in case I have to make my own snippets and disappear.
We all took too long. Yeah.
Yes, that's how
interested.
That's how interesting that game was. Well, good weekend of football. If we're going through the other games and see, first of all, before I actually go through the other games, when you look at it, the bench for Man City is frightening, man. When you look at the players that you can actually bring on at that time, losing 3-1, and the way they actually just no confidence loss, we can get back into the game. We can see what happens. It's
But you say that, but he doesn't use it.
Not yet, because he I think he. So
He wants to. It's like when Man City perform badly and the results not going their way. It's like he has the mentality that you've put us in this mess. You lot must get us out of it. I'm not going to make any changes.
I think Pep is a system guy. Yeah, so when I mean a system guy is that he believes so much in the system he's implementing that he thinks, regardless of the outcome of what's happening, it's going to work. Just give it time. It's going to work. Give it time. It's going to work. So, and that's why you see their games like Mr. Hinders mentioned before. There are certain games you see managers that their teams are winning 4-0. Pep too is one of them. I think he sets a system for a game and he just sticks with it. He's not going to if he doesn't have to make any changes, he doesn't do that. The same thing with Klopp. They're system managers, I have the system. This is the system I've worked out for this particular game, so I'm just going to stick with it. If it works, it'll work eventually. It'll work, and I think that's one of the. It might be a good thing, it might be a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. Well,
yeah, but even if it's a system manager, you can still change the person over in the system. For example, he could have put on Mahrez for Bernardo Silva, or change Foden, or put on Alvarez, or change Rodri for Phillips. He could have changed the personnel within the same system, but he doesn't.
But then
did he need to?
Yep, he didn't. He didn't need to, and then he can argue that Bernardo Silva gave him 2 assists, gave him a goal. So he'll probably leave that game going, okay, we didn't win, but we didn't lose. So the system just needs maybe a tiny tweak. I don't know. Only God knows how he thinks. But there
was only 2. He was chasing the game at 3-1, right? So he only had really Mahrez and Alvarez to bring on at the top to freshen it up for any form of. You don't take Haaland off lightly to bring on Alvarez, and Silva always looked like he was about to do something and come into it. And it just dropped and it all just fell into place.
I think if there's anyone that looked a bit below par today, it was Foden. That was the only one, I would say. It would have been a candidate for substitution, but then he didn't have Grealish, so.
Well, we shall see.
Or Sterling.
Going through the other games. One game I wanted to particularly touch on, and just simply because of I like the way Vieira is making Crystal Palace look. He's kind of playing. Last season, he was building them slowly. Sent Benteke away, and then he's using his forward very skillful players. Plays Iberi Eze just behind the striker, so he could pick up the ball and run. And he's kind of giving some sort of freedom to Zaha. One of the reasons I want to mention Zaha is Vieira seems like has found a way to make him actually score more goals and make him be a better player. Do we see Zaha scored 13 goals last season or just above, and that's probably been his highest goal scoring season in Premier League. Has Vieira unlocked? Has he brought would you call it a new system for Crystal Palace, or has he unlocked their style of play that they're actually looking more attacking, more fancy? Big dunk.
I should hope it's a new system from Hodgson, to Vieira, So he's definitely got them, playing a different brand of football to that of Hodgson, and even like previous managers. Like again, it's all looking quite positive at Palace. Like they won that game really convincingly against Villa. They had a lot of chances. Like they could have scored twice as many goals. I mean, we've been saying about Vieira, they've been moving in the right direction. Was it a top half finish they got last season? Did they scrape it in? I can't remember exactly, but I think they were there or thereabouts, rather than being a team that's always finishing 14th to 17th, that kind of area, and avoiding the relegation fight on the last day. They're playing really positive football. I like that they've got youngsters like Eze and who's the other guy? Skip my
Olise.
Yeah. Like players like that, young English players that they got from the Championship, like really stepping it up in the Premier League and able to deliver. So it's all really positive there. And Zaha's had a great start to the season. So again, nothing bad to say about Palace at the minute. Obviously, the only team they've lost to is Arsenal, and Arsenal are looking really good. So all good down at Palace.
Big Steve, is it with Villa? Is it a bit too early to mention, or too early to say now after 3 games? Well, is Gerrard, because Villa looked like they were set to go mid their buys really early. Looking at the way the season finished for them last season, they looked like it was going to continue that momentum. But it's 2 losses from 3. They're not particularly playing well per se. Is Gerrard, finding it difficult to try and get the system? Have they found him out already?
I don't know if it's that. I think Gerrard's done some changes within the club, namely, what's his name, stripping Mings of the captaincy and giving it to McGinn. I think there's been some stuff that's happened off the pitch, and it's just about resettling the side, resettling the formation, and getting them going again. I think he'll be all right. There'll be a slow start, but they'll pick up. And speaking about Palace, I think what Vieira's done is made Zaha the finisher, not the provider in the side. And he's got other creative players playing behind him that can supply him. He's not the one that has to supply and finish himself, with Eze and stuff like that. So I think there was a lot of concern about Palace, the fact that they lost Gallagher, but they seem to have brushed that aside, moved on, and it's like he was never there last season. So they're really impressive.
Okay, and of course, Mr. Hinder, you mentioned how everybody wants the West Ham way. The West Ham way doesn't seem like it's working so far this season. Brighton having a good start to the season, winning 2-0 away. We always sing Potter's praises on this show. West Ham, too early to panic, Mr. Hinder?
Slow burners, West Ham. Just a slow burn. A couple of new players just need to set in. I think the transfer window wasn't exactly as exciting as they wanted it. They really thought Lingard was going to come in and didn't come in. I'm not sure if that dismantled the squad a little bit, made them a little bit sadder. It's the only thing I can think of. They've got the new striker that I've tipped to play well. One to watch for the season. I think he scored the other day. I think they'll do fine. West Ham are never going to be above us, not with the team that they've got. They'll just take a bit more of time to get in, find their feet, and do things. I think Villa have got a bigger issue than anything else. They've got a really established squad that's been there for a long time together. And when you start upsetting players, regardless of what the reason is, I know no one's bigger, but either you got to ship them out, and if they don't fall in line, you'll know on the pitch that they're not falling in line properly. And Mings is a good quality centre-back. Regardless of how good Steven Gerrard was as a player, this is a whole new ball game in the Premier League for him to manage under. We're not talking of a Mickey Mouse league anymore. This is proper
Mickey Mouse League.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 2 teams ever going to win in Scotland, right? So he's now, and that's no disrespect to Scottish football, but there is only 2 teams that are ever going to win that league.
That's no disrespect to that Mickey Mouse League, is it, Neil?
No disrespect to the teams, but it's a Mickey Mouse League. literally, there's no one else that's going to win up there. Rangers went from like non-league football back up to the top after like 5 seasons. So it's just put some perspective into how much harder he's got it at Villa. Now, you can strip Mings off it, great, but there's disciplinary reasons, and you're putting him back in a team. What are you really achieved by this? Nothing. You've upset the squad. Ollie Watkins isn't playing really where he should be, or hasn't started. You're like, he's a great player. And then he got an injury as well, didn't he? Coutinho got a little injury, and then
Carlos, the defender,
back.
so that's why he's not got much choice on Mings now.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you're bringing him, and then Mings is coming back in and go, do you know what I mean? But that's handling that. And I think Mings and Watkins have been linked with leaving, and I think they'd be great additions. Most teams, maybe other than the top 6, but even at Arsenal, Mings would be a great addition at centre back as a good step in. If he's only going to be a step in at bloody Villa, you might as well go to a good club and be a bit part player, right? And Ollie Watkins looks like a decent player, but yeah, Gerrard's got to bring that dressing room back in, because we all thought he did really good business, right? At the beginning of the season for his transfers, they were all great, but then they're not really coming in. The honeymoon period is over. They seem to be struggling. Some fans have been calling for Gerrard's head already, and this is the problem when you've got some fan favourites as well that you're annoying. That just has to go. They need to sort that out publicly as well, because if it goes behind closed doors, it's fine. But then you need that public fallout, because we all know about it. Nothing's sacred anymore, right? Someone will leak regardless of what happens. We all know about it, and then the fans want to know what's going on and how that's been resolved. So that's going to be, Mings needs to come out and say something. Gerrard needs to come out. I think they've already said that they're not going to let them go, which is going to be, they're all going to have to just get on, or the easiest thing to do is to get rid of Gerrard at a particular point, because selling 2 players after September isn't going to happen. So, but getting rid of Gerrard will be the easiest thing of that. And could really Villa afford to replace Watkins and Mings, like we said, back in the team already?
And no disrespect to Villa, but Mings might as well go to a good club, yeah? Neil Hinder.
No, I said he might as well go play for a top 6 club, I meant, and sit on the bench rather than sit on the bench.
That's not what you said, Neil. You said what I quoted.
It's exactly what I meant, yeah. He might as well go to a top club and sit on the bench, right? Rather than sit on the bench with Villa. It's disrespectful for Mings as well.
Top club, Mickey Mouse League.
On that side of things.
It's happening.
It's all coming out. Look, I've got opinions. They're not always factual, but, you know...
Maybe Villa should go and play in the Scottish League, Neil, and then that's all you're from.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, it was all Stevens anyway, wouldn't it? They would be doing bits up there. It's a sad state of affairs, because Villa were on the up, but I know we're only 3 games in, but they're looking poor.
Time will tell. They're looking poor.
10 on them to go down.
10 of them together, Neil's betting rails. I like it. Okay, people. Now, as always, we have our own league ranking table that we do, predicting fixtures for the Premier League. At the moment, the Angry One is leading with 43 points. And then, of course, you have Big Steve, who's second with 28. Dunk's third, 26. Neil is fourth with 19. And my scores didn't go in last time, people. I think Neil was trying to shaft me or something and just make me the last guy. But it's fine. But my scores didn't go in, so I'm last with 15 points. That's okay. So we are looking at 4 games, of course, for the upcoming weekend, the Premier League. And the 4 games where I have selected, well, the first we'll look at is, 2 informed teams. Brighton versus Leeds. Dunk.
Ooh. Tough one. Both informed. Brighton have had a really good start. I'm going to play that safe. I will go for 1-1.
1-1 Brighton versus Leeds. Big Steve?
2-1 Brighton.
2-1 Brighton. Would you look at that? And Neil?
We've gone on predictions, and we're not even going to talk about Liverpool Man U.
No,
or we're just going to have a whole other show on that afterwards.
Yeah, I'm sure you would love that.
Yeah. Brighton can't score many more than 1, so 2-1 Leeds.
2-1 Leeds. I'm sure that must pain you to say 2-1 Leeds. All right, Brighton Leeds. I'm gonna go 2-1 to Leeds. 2-1 to Leeds. I'm copying you, Mr. Hinder. 2-1 to Leeds. All right. Of course, looking again at another game. We look at 2 teams that are not very in form. Chelsea v Leicester. Big Steve.
Chelsea, Leicester.
Is someone tickling you under the desk? Because you just laughed out of the middle of nowhere.
Chelsea, Leicester. Let's go 2-1 Chelsea.
2-1 Chelsea. Okay. Mr. Hinder?
Oh, Vardy's just signed a new contract, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Woo! He's got to be about my age now. Leicester are poor. So Chelsea. But Chelsea are home. And they spent 200 million. So let's go with 4-2 Chelsea.
Dunk?
Oh, I'll go for a bounce back Chelsea win. They'll get a bollocking off a Tuchel this week. So I will go for, let's go for 2-0.
I'm going to go 3-1 Chelsea. Okay. Well, I was going to leave it because it's, when you think about it, it's actually, the fixture is not part of the upcoming fixtures. But, Mr. Hinder mentioning it, I don't know why he's challenging my team selection. But let's go Liverpool, Man United. Liverpool, Man United. Mr.
No,
Hinder?
that's this weekend.
No, I was going to leave it out, but it's fine. Let's put it in. It's not, they haven't played yet, but let's just put it in. Liverpool, Man United, Mr. Hinder.
6-0 Liverpool.
6-0 Liverpool. I mean, that's a score that, well, I was going to say it's not going to happen, but it was 5-0 last time, so we never know. Okay.
And you're worse. We didn't think it was possible, but...
Big Steve?
It's at Old Trafford, isn't it? Is it Old Trafford? 4-1
Yeah, it's Old Trafford.
to Liverpool.
The dilapidated stadium, evidently. Needs billions spent on it.
Okay. And Dunk?
Let's go for 3-0 Liverpool.
Okay. I'm going to go for...
4? Yeah, that's for Leeds. Liverpool, right?
I'm going to go for 3-1 Liverpool.
He's like, do I want to win the prediction league or support my team?
Okay.
I'll always go for screw my team in the prediction. Who cares about it? If my team win, I'm like, yeah, I don't care about the prediction league.
Okay, and the last game that we'll put in the prediction league, a tough one, to call. Let's try it. Nottingham Forest Spurs. Big Steve.
1-1.
Wow.
Score draw.
Okay. Dunk.
I will go 3-1 to Spurs.
No.
5-0 Spurs.
This guy, he's 5-0 and 6-0. Okay. And let's see, what should I go for here? I'm gonna go 4-1 Spurs.
It's either going to click that game or it's going to be a really, really tight affair, I think. But
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We shall see how our ranking gets turned around by next
what?
week. What?
What gets turned around by next week?
What did you hear?
No, just that's what you said.
No. What did you hear? Though?
Do you mean our league table?
Repeat that.
Our rankings, yeah. next week, we shall see how it turns out from the league. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, if you have listened to this point, and we have spoken about the games and what we think about the rise of the North London clubs. Looking at the other games, Eddie Howe been doing wonderful things at Newcastle, Zaha improving at Crystal Palace, and etc., etc., etc. We have had Big Steve in the studio. Thank you very much, sir. We have Miss Dunk and, of course, Mr. Hinder. Well, we are looking forward to the Liverpool Man United game. Well, I am. I'm sure these guys are looking forward, as they can't help themselves but to attack Man United every week, even if we didn't play. So till then, ladies and gentlemen, it's goodbye from Mr. Hinder.
Take it easy.
Goodbye from Big Steve.
See you later, people.
To the happiest Leeds fan in the world right now, goodbye from Big Dunk.
Catch you later, guys.
And if you don't see me next week, I'll probably be somewhere trying to kill my United players, depending on how the Liverpool game goes. All right, till then, ladies and gentlemen, more things.